everybody. This is Brian David Marshall here with Pro Tour Hall of Famer Brian Kibler, and we are at the Cat Show at Magic Weekend Philadelphia. Brian, the modern format is supposed to be about combo decks and giant Eldrazi monsters. How did you convince a team of the world's best Magic players to abandon a very, very robust combo deck and attack with Wild Nacatl?
I just kept beating everything they threw at it. Basically, in the team, everyone had their decks that they want to work on, which is a great way for a team to work. You have people who sort of champion a particular deck, they work on it, they're invested in it being good, and unsurprisingly, I was invested in a Zoo deck being good. I happen to be rather attached to Wild Nacatl and friends. And in the beginning of the format, people were like, oh, you can't play Zoo, you can't play Zoo. These 12 post decks, they play Primeval Titan, they have all these walls, you can't beat them. And I was like, well, maybe that's right, but I'm gonna find out if that's true. So I kept trying a bunch of different Zoo decks. Right. I had some Zoo decks with Molten Rain. I had some Zoo decks, that had Boom Bust, Bloodbraid Elf, all this different stuff. And it was actually when I was testing against combo decks that I realized that I wanted to try Bant Charm. Bant Charm here, Bant Charm Zoo was a major player a couple years ago in the extended metagame, and in part because Zoo decks were very popular, Bant Charm was really good at dealing with opposing big creatures. It was also good against Dark Depths and such then. But now, one thing that Bant Charm does that a lot of people sort of off the radar is it counters Seething Song. And a lot of these Storm decks, a lot of these combo decks are very reliant on these effects to search and to accelerate themselves out. And just a little flick into the structure of their combo, and they can't go off. When I first Bant Charmed to Seething Song, my opponent was just like, oh, I guess I'm dead. I was just like, maybe there's something more to this. And that was when I thought of Flashfreeze. Flashfreeze is the card that really...
Let's go to the sideboard here.
I've been calling this deck Counter Cat. And the reason for this is the 6 counters in the sideboard. Flashfreeze was the card that, I was like, well, if Bant Charming, Seething Song is awesome, well, Flash Freezing any of their rituals or these things is going to be really good too. And you know what Flash Freeze also counters? Primeval Titan. The most powerful card in the 12 post decks that gives Zeus so much of a problem. You can stop it. You don't have to worry about oh, did I draw my Molten Rain in time? Right. You can just stop whatever they're doing.
So you've knocked 2 legs out of the pillars that are holding up the modern platform right now. So you have something for the Eldrazi deck, and you have something for the Seething Song, Pyromancer, Swath, Ascension
Absolutely.
decks.
And I mean, these combo decks, a lot of people have been saying, modern is it's a combo format. And there are a lot of combo decks. There are a lot more combo decks than any other sort of style of deck, especially control decks these days. But the thing about these combo decks is they're effectively Charbelcher decks. They're decks that they can get the really good draw that kills you on turn 3 or sometimes turn 1 or 2. Sure. But that doesn't happen that often. And as I was saying before, the slightest disruption can often make them unable to kill you before you kill them.
Sure. To go
and
off
that's why I want to be a beatdown deck.
Right. To go off on turn 2 or 3, you need to use all the cards in your hand, right?
So if you play Wild Nacatl, then maybe Green Sun Zenith out of Gaddock Teeg against some of them, or just keep attacking them, Bant Charm, their Seething Song, whatever. You can often kill them before they can kill you.
Well, let's take a tour through the Cat Show here, sure. through Counter Cat, and you have to start with the lands, and it's a pretty complex mana base. Starting with 1 Tectonic Edge.
Yep. Tectonic Edge is a card that it's very important against the Cloud Post decks. And being able to kill a Cloud Post, they play a Cloud Post, they play another Cloud Post, or whatever. Being able to get them off of double Cloud Post, double Forest means they can't cast Titan. So having an active Knight before they're able to do that lets you search up the 1 Tectonic Edge and set them back quite a bit. Killing one of their Cloud Posts denies them 3 mana. Right. So it's a big deal.
And you're able to do that off of like a turn 2 Knight of the Reliquary.
Right, absolutely.
Horizon Canopy?
When you want a Knight for value. This is, as much as I call it Counter Cat, this is very much a Knight of the Reliquary deck. Knight of the Reliquary is my favorite card in Magic. And it's super, super powerful and can do all sorts of things.
Right, we have him lumped in with the lands.
Yeah, here he is amongst his subjects. But the full mix of fetch lands, there are 11 fetch lands in the deck, both to power Knight of the Reliquary, and to ensure that you get all your colors of mana. There's all sorts of there's actually not that many real lands in the deck. There's 6, 7, 8 lands that aren't somehow value.
Right, 8 lands that you can fetch with fetch lands.
Right, and there's 11 fetches. So you can see how much it uses these as just a powerful effect to power up Knight and to ensure that you're getting everything smoothly.
Right, and you also have Noble Hierarch, another old favorite of yours.
Noble Hierarch, in Austin, I played 3 Noble Hierarchs, and it was kicking myself. I couldn't kick myself too much,
yeah.
But that I didn't play 4 because it was just the best card in the deck. And one thing that's great about the deck now is that with Green Sun Zenith, you actually effectively have 8 Noble Hierarchs. You have 8 cards that can accelerate you to turn 2 Knight, and that's a big deal. Or you can play a Nacatl turn 1. You can play a Green Sun Zenith 4 Hierarch turn 2, and then you can play My Lady Elspeth on turn 3.
So I heard you were offered some action on whether or not you'd be playing Elspeth in in the modern format.
There were people who came up to me before the tournament, and they're like, so how many Elspeths and Knight of the Reliquaries are in your deck? Because I'm known for putting these into decks.
And you went double on this one.
Yeah, Elspeth is a card that's incredibly powerful, and in this format is actually even better. The 12-post decks, they often defend themselves with walls, and they defend themselves with Primeval Titan. And if you can send a gigantic Knight over any of them, they're in serious trouble. Their deck doesn't actually interact with Elspeth very well. And at a certain point in the game, you can actually just block Primeval Titan with Knight of the Reliquary because it gets so big. They can't afford to attack.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the rest of the sideboard here. Qasali Pridemage, another Tectonic Edge, Bribery. This has been an exciting card this weekend.
Bribery is a sweet one. Bribery is a card that's obviously very good against the various Cloudpost decks. And being able to take their Emrakul, which you can actually do very quickly with this deck.
Sure.
You can actually, Noble Hierarch, it's Knight of the Reliquary. You can actually cast Bribery. It's you just accelerate so much mana. You have 4, and then use your Knight to get a land. It comes to play untapped. You can Bribery them on turn 3.
Right. Aven Mindcensor was a last-minute sideboard card?
That was actually one of the cards that sort of got, was the glue that brought our sideboard together. Aven Mindcensor is one of the cards that's great against the Cloudpost decks. It's also very good against the Malira decks, any of the Birthing Pod, Court of Calling type decks. It also attacks over the walls in the wall versions of Cloudpost. So it's super, super good, and can disrupt a bunch of different decks, especially if they don't see it coming.
Gideon's not a card I was expecting to see in the modern format.
Gideon's not a card a lot of people were expected to see. It was actually kind of funny when I was building the sideboard for the deck. Brad was like, we probably want like 2 cards against Zoo, and I was like, well, I think they're just Gideon. I think Gideon's just the best card. And I said this having played no games with him, and Brad was like, okay, I'll try it out. And he plays a couple games against Ben Stark playing another Zoo deck, and he's like, that was insane. I actually played in the tournament. I played against another Zoo deck. I played Zenith 4 Dryad Arbor, Knight, Gideon on turn 4. Bring it. Your guys are attacking into my 2 Knights, and it's basically just mind slaving your attack phase every single turn. All their guys die, and eventually, Gideon can kill things. He can attack them. It's absolutely dominating.
Okay, well, I got to let you get back to dominating. Pairings have gone up. People are sitting down waiting for their opponents. You've been gracious enough with your time. I'm going to let him get back to fighting. And signing off for Brian Kibler, this is Brian David Marshall from the Tournament Center.
Time to battle.